it should be the NAACP instead of honoring Nicki Minaj or 50 Cent or whatever actor. It just makes no sense, and we got to do something. Um, we got about 15 minutes. I want to give each person a final statement before we close out the program. But first, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming on. I hope that you will stay in contact with me. Help me get the information that I requested. I want pictures, even pictures of the victims. People need to see the faces of these victims. They need to see the men that are incarcerated, And so, I'm going to stay in touch. I'm certainly going to stay on this and try to recruit more bloggers and more online radio hosts to talk about this story. Anybody that's willing to go on these shows, please let me know, and we will do our best to keep this story circulating, just like we did with the Scott sisters. But, I want to go to you first, Miss Reed. You've been quiet for a long time. Miss Reed, for tonight, what would you leave as your final thought for our listeners about what's going on with all the victims, but especially with your son, Gerald?
I would like to leave. First of all, I would like to thank you for allowing us to come in and talk on your program. I really do thank you, and I really do appreciate that. I would like anybody that hears this, anybody that has been abused, have been tortured, tell them to contact you. Contact someone that can do something about it, because there are people that has been abused, have been tortured, and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know who to talk to because they didn't have no money, and they didn't know who to go to. But it's hard on us when we see our families, our family members that's in such pain. And like my son, 20 years in prison, and he got life for 2 counts of murder. He didn't do neither. My son has always been the type of person to try to help somebody. He never tried to hurt anybody. That wasn't his makeup. He was always like a good-hearted person. And then when this happened to him, it just hurt him, and it has been so devastating to him. But only thing I try to keep him encouraged and tell him just keep trusting in the Lord, because one thing about it, God is not going to let us down. He might not come today, he might not come tomorrow, but he's right there.
Yes, ma'am. And I just wanted to say you're welcome. This is why we exist. And I appreciate your gratefulness. And I don't want to say that it's not welcome, but I like to say it's not needed. I should thank you for being a strong mother, for standing by your son, and for participating in these type of forums to just get the message out, about this stuff goes on. It's been going on. People want to talk about a post-racial society because we got a black president who is from Chicago and who I know knows about this torture and is silent about it when he gives the State of the Union, and all you talk about is the economy. Education is important. Yeah, people working is important. But look, it ain't all about a certain class of people. We got serious human rights violations going on in this country, and you're supposed to be representing everyone. And I know Barack Obama knows about this torture.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Miss Bertha Escamilla, thank you. And please leave our listeners with a final thought.
Well, thank you for having us on the show. I know that you will have other families that would love to come on to tell their stories. Miss Reed is is right. When you're put into this situation, you're lost. You're embarrassed. You just don't know who to turn to. You can't talk to everybody because you can't believe what happened, and you're lost. You just don't know what to do. You're always trying to reach out for somebody, but it's not the person that can help you.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just to me it was very hard because my husband was sick at the time, so it was just my daughter and I that was going through this here, but it was very, very hard to go through this. Being a mother and having your only son to be taken away like that. The police officers lied and said that, no, they told the truth, that they had been working 40 hours on the case and that my son was going down for it. But I would just like to tell people to just keep on encouraging their loved ones. If they have their loved ones, don't give up on them. They need you. And when they come out, the lucky ones are the ones that have a family who would be there for them, because if they don't have that, they become homeless. They get into trouble again because there's no food or no shelter for them. So they end up getting into trouble again. It's not a pretty sight. And I just hope that people can try to support us into what we're trying to do. We're trying to help other people to get out, to get compensated, to have a roof over their heads, to try to get their minds back. It's not something simple. It's like soldiers who go to war and come back and their minds are all screwed up because of what they did and gone through. Same thing here. And it's not just the black representatives, officials, it's the Latinos also. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows about it. You write to them. Your sons, your daughters write to them asking for help. And the only thing they can come out and say is that, well, if he signed a confession, he must be guilty. Knowing that you sign a false confession only to have them stop beating on you.
Yes, ma'am.
People didn't want to write confessions, but there is a breaking point. And that's what happens. But the little ways that people try to get out of getting help for you is by saying, well, you don't live in my area. If they sign a confession, well, they obviously had to have done it. Things like that. And it's so sad that your people can't be supportive with you. And it's all because they just want a title. They want to be able to say they're an official. I just hope that nothing like this ever happens to any of them, because it's not an easy way to have to live, to see your loved one incarcerated, and then to have to leave them there. Or if they have children and you take your children to see them, they're so happy. Going down to see them, they're all happy and smiles and so forth. On the way coming back, they're crying. Why can't their dad come home? They want their dad. And grandparents are the ones who take care of them. And it's just a very, very bad situation to have to go through. So this is what families have to go through. And I just hope that people who are out there just to continue to keep on working with us. We need your support. And even those that are not in the situation, we need your support. We need to do something. We must stop this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I thank you for joining us, and that was very well said. Mr. Clements, thank you for joining me once again, and thank you for putting me in touch with these two brave women. What would your final thoughts be for our listeners tonight?
Okay, well, my final thoughts in a nutshell is that on March the 16th in Chicago at 2600 South California, I'm going to sit back and mobilize a event to go to all of these prosecutors that are representing torture victims. And I'm going to ask them to have a heart to grant the 23 men that remain in prison hearings on their claims of torture. I am also, on that day, going to ask the chief judge to grant a special prosecutor in the case of People versus Devan Deloney. It is an insult, it remains to be an insult, how these tortures occurred. These were legal lynchings. And if people believe that legal lynchings do not occur, then they are wrong. It's occurring within the police department. Barack Obama was a state senator right in the heart where these tortures occurred. It is almost ridiculous. It's a shame. It's an insult that Barack Obama would become to be president of the United States of America and turn his head on the very ones that fed him. I thank universities like Northwestern University and Abla College and DePaul University that has placed faith in me to give me interns to go out and to investigate these men cases. You know, it's one aspect of what you are hearing that I'm involved in, but I also run a wrongful conviction project. And Chicago police tortures are just the tip of the iceberg. But many of these men have been tricked, they have been bamboozled, and they have been placed in prison. And what is a shame is that evidence has existed from the very moment before these men were placed in prison that they were innocent. So I do thank you, Scotty, for your time and allowing us to come onto your radio program and to bring forth once again how men are just sitting inside of Illinois prisons, languishing and dying, and they have no way out. But thanks to you, we do have a platform, and thank you, Scotty.
Oh, you're very welcome, and you know the door is always open, and I meant what I said about reaching out to my fellow bloggers out there and fellow online radio hosts. Like I said in a Facebook status, as I said to many of you, yes, the Scott sisters still need to be pardoned, but they are out of prison. They're no longer in prison. And the time for celebration of that victory is over because there are far too many other cases of injustice in the United States, and they need our help in shining the light on the corrupt deeds of many of these state governments, our federal government, these prosecutors. If you learn anything from the Scott sisters case, is that persistence will work in the end if you just stick with it and stay to it. Okay? And so I'm calling on my fellow bloggers out there. I'm calling on my fellow online radio hosts. You can go to the website, Campaign to End the Death Penalty. I have asked Mark to forward me some names of some people who are willing to appear on your radio shows. And so I'll post that on the blacktalkmedia.blogspot.com where you can get the email addresses, or you can go through Mark and line up some of these guests for your shows, okay? Because I believe that this is what these platforms should be used for. Okay, and I know we need to be entertained. Everybody needs to relax every once in a while, but there's a time for work and there's a time for play, and we should not use such a powerful tool to play all the time. You got to be serious some of the time, and even if your program isn't a program on social or criminal justice issues, you can still share some of these other programs with your listeners and tell them, hey, I heard about this case. You need to go to that blog and check it out. Or, start incorporating just little 5-minute news clips in your music program or in your poetry program, talking about these missing children or talking about these wrongful convictions, okay? All right, the power is in our hands, so we cannot misuse it. And I want to thank you all again, Mr. Clements, Miss Escamilla, and Miss Reed. And you all have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. You too.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. And you have been listening to Black Talk Radio News and Views. Please check out our website, which is blacktalkradio.blogspot.com. You can catch some of my blogs that I write, and you can catch some of our past shows, and subscribe to our RSS feed. We're also working to put that on iTunes, but our Blog Talk Radio account, that's on iTunes. So, tell a friend about us and follow our blog, and that's where you'll be able to hear the podcast of this program. I'm going to close out the program with some music from Scientific Universal Non-Commercial, Another Recipe.
Written through telepathy at all times, keep my secret weapon next.